What's going on, YouTube? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Welcome to Texas Podcast. Thank you for all the new subscribers, all the likes, all the comments, all the feedback. Thank you so much. It's greatly appreciated. On this episode, I want to touch up on because I've been seeing a lot of comments that I'm not going after hips. I'm not attacking hips. Uh, I'm not putting hips. I'm not holding him accountable. Basically, that is just a one sided. That I'm just going after one person, that I'm not going based off the documentary. But we have to, before I get into the documentary, and I'm gonna point a couple of things in that documentary out, and see if anybody, agrees or disagrees. Because the difference is, there's two differences. One is consensual. Two, second, forced upon. Doing something, you didn't agree to, or you being forced to do it. Or if you don't do it, something of ill or something bad is going to happen to you if you don't comply of what they're telling you to do. So, and a lot of times when these victims in these scenarios, a lot of times they indulge in maybe out of guilt, or maybe, you know just like Fleece asked Mark, you didn't have no booty after 19 years. uh I don't know. you know it's kind of I guess, a taboo subject. Nobody really wants to be talking about it, of what really goes on behind those prison walls. But this documentary was made to give people an idea of what's really going on behind behind those walls, and what takes place. And from a lot of documentaries that you see, articles you read up on, news clippings. Uh, for example, a lot of these females that get something done to them at a young age, uh, they have a different lifestyle than a one that didn't. It's almost like they start having relations more at a young age, or they start working, on the streets, or trying to get, you know, into the industry, legally or illegal. They try to work themselves way into that kind of industry. Because it's sad to say that, they either liked it, not by choice, or guilty conscience. Or it's the same thing. That's why a lot of these girls, that these females, that something did happen to them, you know, they turn to the other side. Which I mean by that, by they go to the alphabet letter. They become studs, or you know, they become they like the same. They like this. They like females, even through they're females. Some of them, it was too trauma for them to even date another male, so they stay with the same female. I'm not a psychologist. I've just, what I read and seen on documentaries, and you know, and I can only speculate that it's the same for the male. Even worse for the male, I would say. Because especially if you didn't have that idea, or being that sexual deviant, that you like man, or that curiosity. If you were into women, that's the thing about being I guess there's two roles that be played here. Is the giver and the receiver, right? The batter and the catcher, as you would say. And then they play roles, right? I mean, one plays the female role and the other one plays the male role. And I mean, I guess to make it all right. But what my point is when is it consensual? We know that guys be indulging in this type of stuff behind prison. Consensual, non-consensual. Uh, that's the difference. That's the difference. That if somebody says, "Yeah, I'm up for it," "Yeah, I agree to it," or "Nah, man, I didn't agree to it. I was forced upon by numerous guys. I was outnumbered. I had no choice." So it's a very sensitive topic. You know, we all heard what Hip said that happened to him in Homeland, and he's said it numerous times in numerous videos that that feeling of not being able to do nothing, a defenseless, just like a lifeless, something you can't do. I've never been in that type of situation per se, other than somebody holding a tool to my chest and going through my pockets. I felt, I guess you can say, hey, you really can't do nothing but, ask the guys to, hey, let you make it. You respect the hustle. It is what it is. Just let me make it. So I've experienced that feeling, being vulnerable and, somebody having a tool to your chest or to your head, and a simple squeeze can end it for you. So I've been, I guess in those type of situations, I guess, I've had that feeling to where, this person's life, they basically have your life in their hands. In a simple movement or you saying something wrong, they could end it. So I've been in situations like that, where I told them, it is what it is. Take whatever. I respect the hustle. Let me make it. But I've never been in that position where I've been vulnerable, where it's involving my manhood. I've been involved where it's involved my life, but never my manhood. Because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, what's going on? Are you a victim or have you?" No, I've never been victim or victimized. But at the same time, we heard what Charles has been through. It happened to him at a young age. You heard him. He spent 30 something years in prison. And what did Flea say to old Mark? 19 years and no booty. I mean, it just you would all we can do is speculate off that documentary, off Charles's interviews, and whoever else comes out and says, "Hey, you know what? I seen Charles do this. I seen Charles do that." But nobody has came out and said it other. There's people always in the comments saying, "Yeah, I know this, I know that." But if you know all this and know that all that, then why don't you make a video and say, "You know what? I know Charles. He was in there. He was a boy." I mean, we all know that. I mean, right now we're gonna watch this documentary. Certain parts of it. We're gonna touch up on the Charles Hips part of the documentary, and we're gonna touch up on the other part of the documentary, the 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 ID. It's not even his name. Itty is not even his name, according to Charles. And we'll get into that here as we go. So people are wanting to know if Charles indulged. I don't know. And what if he did indulge? Nowhere in that documentary it says that he was taking it by force. Nowhere in that documentary does it say he was taking it by force. And not even after that documentary was made, the director, producer, Jonathan Schwartz, didn't come out saying Charles Hips was a rapist, a victimizer. He said that about Mark. He didn't say that about Hips. We have Mendenhall's sister come out and say a few things. She didn't say too much. She just called him a name, called him a monster, and said she shook his hand. That's it. That's all she said. So you can read into whatever that is. Now we have Charles from that same documentary saying the same thing him and Mark were doing. But once again, nowhere in that documentary does it say Hips was turning out boys. Now, if he indulged in it, hey, that's his problem. We all know that a lot of people in Alabama and in a lot of prisons indulge, especially if it's open and allowed from your organizations. Some states that's not allowed. It's frowned upon. Uh, it's not idolized or glorified to have boys under you. It's not cool. It's not something to brag about, but it happens. It is what it is. It's the environment. It's the culture in some prisons. As long as like in Alabama, for instance, the place we're talking about, as long as you're the giver and not the receiver, you're still considered the man. You're not considered bi, in other words. But realistically, that's what you are. You're a bi man because you have feelings for both, man and female. So if Charles indulged in it, which I mean, you heard what Flea said. 19 years no booty. 30 years no booty. And it's okay. And then him being a victim. And it's just hard to say not, you know what I mean? But I wasn't there. All I have as evidence on Charles Hips is the documentary. And his roles are very minimum. They're if anything, they're conflicting. They're you're getting two pictures painted from Jonathan Schwartz. First you get first you get one portrait, which I'll walk through it right now here in a little bit. You get two scenarios. You get two Charles Hips. You get from the narrating, you get him being a wife, and then from Hips himself, you get him as being like a participant, almost like an equal to Mark. So it's kind of a conflicting of stories, you know. But the story of Mark has always been the same. He's victimized his victims. He's a serial this. That's what the documentary said when it was filmed 20 something odd years ago. And not too long ago, about a month ago, the director and producer, Jonathan Schwartz, came out and did an interview and clarified what he said about Mark. That yes, Mark is a serial rapist. He's victimized his victims and he's giving them a lifetime of healthcare issues. By that, I don't know. what he means. He didn't really specific. I mean, he wasn't really too specific about healthcare issues. I mean, he could have meant mental health, a viral disease. Uh, I don't know, but some kind of medical condition that was going to be a lifetime. So you can, at that point, you can only speculate. This is not nobody. This was the person that so-called did an interrogation investigation in old school journalism. So let me get into the documentary. Certain points.
A little over 2 years.
Mindy was not the only one to join Mark's makeshift clan. There was Hips, a forger. He began.
See, like right here, Hips. When I asked Hips about this part, he said he's in lockup. And as you can see, it looks like the guards in there, that this is part of some type of lockup at that facility. Because if you can see where every other place that they were filming was wide open. And that looks like some kind of I guess what they call the hole, you know, disciplinary lockup.
Again as a prison wife.
It's really not just a sex thing. It's about having a companion, somebody that you know is your friend.
I got hips.
You heard what Hips said right there. I mean, I'm gonna rewind it.
I didn't really kick it with nobody else for a little over 2 years.
Mindy was not the only one to join Mark's makeshift clan. There was Hips, a forger. He began as a prison wife.
It's really not just a sex thing. It's about having a companion, somebody that you know is your friend.
I got hips.
See, the way Charles Hips and that part sounds right there, it's like, you know what? It ain't about, the intercourse. It's about having somebody compatible, companionship, somebody you can kick it with that's basically a male that you would consider your girlfriend. You know, he's talking like somebody that's indulging and participating willingly. He's not saying that he's taking it by force, or if anything, they said he's a prison wife from previous. And we all know what happened to him at Homan by 6 dudes. He already told us. So here in a little bit, I'm gonna fast forward, and Mendenhall is gonna tell us what happens. That once you're a boy, it doesn't matter wherever you go. That name and stigma of you being a boy is gonna follow you anywhere you go.
Um, Through a partner of mine. Hips went to the street and come back to prison. When he got to the camp, he owed out like $300-400 worth of shit. When he first got there, from before when he was in prison.
You see, I don't know. It's a possibility that Hips probably racked up a bill, knowing that he was about to make parole. And heck it, I ain't gonna see these guys for a minute. I'll rack up a bill, and I'll tell them, hey, I'll send y'all the money when I get out. I don't know how it works, but it's highly possibility that when Hips got turned out, he just went along with it. It's like the victims become unwilling participants at the beginning, but then after a while they just become willingly participants. It's like it's gonna happen regardless. So why not let it happen to somebody else? And I get to choose when it happens to me. I don't know. I can't tell you how somebody would think in those type of situations. But you're gonna hear a little bit more of what Hips has to say about the situation. We already know he already done told us what happened to him at Holman. The documentary started off with Hips being a prison wife. Mark done said how he acquired Hips because they're talking about boys. You know, they're not seeing they're seeing Charles Hips as a boy, a prison wife. They didn't see him like a righteous brother like JG or anybody else. They clearly said he was a boy, a prison wife. So if he indulged willingly after that happened to him at Holman, hey, who's to say I wasn't there? But we're gonna go back to what Fleece told Mark. 19 years no booty.
And we were business partners. Okay, when I left and he left, we met up again here at Limestone in 2000. Okay, and it was the same scenario. Mark had a boy, David Mendenhall. Okay, and I run tattoos, run a store, and hustled. All right, so me and Mark started running the store again together, hustling, trying to make more money and more money and more money and more money. And before you know it, I ended up with 2 boys.
You see, because in the documentary, it says Mark got shipped out twice from Limestone. Hips is saying, you know, I left, Mark left to another prison, or Hips saying he went to the free world and then he came back to prison and he met back up with Mark again at this documentary time. So during this documentary time, he clearly says Mark was in a relationship with Mendenhall. You know, Hip said he was running tattoos, uh, fixing radios.
Boys, and he ended up with 2 boys, and we called it a family. And when he wasn't around, I watched all of them. And when I wasn't around, he watched all of them.
That right there, it's just like some kind of dysfunctional family, I guess they had going on. It's 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 saying he's a prison wife. It never said that he was victimizing people in there. So it's almost like if Mark allowed him to have a boy of his own. Like I don't get it. You know, it's almost like if they were business partners and it's like, hey, we got 50-50 split here. You know, you have your relationship with Mendenhall. You know, I'm looking for my relationship with somebody else. You know, so at the end, he ended up with 2 boys. I ended up with 2 boys. But it never says he gained those boys by force. Now, on the other hand, you got Mark admitting that he got his boys by force. Nowhere in this documentary does it say Hips was getting boys by force. Now, if he indulged, that's a whole different topic. You know, if he indulged consensually with other guys after what happened to him at Holman, well then that's questioning his sexuality. You know, if he likes that type of stuff, well, then that's him. You know what I mean? But nowhere in that documentary, or anybody else said other that he was getting his boys by force. Now, if he indulged, we're going to touch up on that here a little bit more close towards the end of the video and what he says. But he's not known for taking it by force. He's not known for breaking people's jaws. He's not known for putting blades to people's necks or eyeballs and taking his boys by force. I mean, we have that self-admitted. You know, he's done that. You know, so now if Mark comes out and says, "Hey, you know, Hips was over there breaking them boys too. That's how he got his boy," then that's a whole different story. We can't just be saying other, you know, because nobody's came out, no director, no producer, nobody else has come out and said, "Hey, you know, I seen Charles do this or do that." I mean, we all heard he was a boy, a prison wife. I mean, I'm pretty sure he was in there consensually. I don't know. But if you listen to him,
I had a family of my own. Or newcomers into the circle.
And David Mendenhall, he worked on radios, and he'd fix my radio and everything. We got to talking, eating together, you know, drinking together.
you see the name down here? It says Eddie. So the same guy that's hidden behind this you know, figure, there's a disguise, or, you know, to keep his features hidden. It's the same guy that's towards the end of the video, Eddie, where he became a full-blown boy. Uh, you see the name right here, it says Eddie. I'm gonna fast forward.
I got my money.
JG got sent to a maximum security facility. Mark is in a monogamous relationship and he quit the Bloods. Eddie became a full-blown sissy a year after.
I got my money.
JG got sent to a maximum security facility. Mark is in a monogamous relationship and he quit the Bloods. Eddie became a full-blown sissy a year after.
You see, Eddie. That's the same from the Shallotte figure. But when I asked Charles, he says his name's not Eddie, it's Addy, because his name's Arthur. And according to Charles, he was some kind of like Dominican, or some kind of island. He was according, that's what Charles Hipp says, that he was like some kind of Spanish, or he had some kind of Spanish in him, like Dominican, Puerto Rican, Nigeria, not Nigerian, but from Nicaragua, somewhere where there's where they call like, it's called Afro Spanish. You know, it's a mixture of uh Spanish and African descent. So somewhere from those Caribbeans, according to Charles, that's his name, not Eddie, but Addy. Because his name's Arthur, he gave me the last name. So I've asked him about all this, and then you come back over here. And let's see what he says.
Attention.
More boys, it brought me more money. You know what I'm saying? So it brought me more trouble.
It basically just turned into something really too stressful for me, and I had to just get back away from it.
Him looking out for them, money going to there and to them, and you know. So
Mindy is alone in a drug treatment dorm. Hip's mom visits just about every Sunday.
Like going to work and drinking coffee is a normal thing on the street. Having boys and prison wives is a normal thing in here. The same thing.
Okay, you heard what he said right there. It's the same thing as being in the free and having wives. Ain't no different than being in prison and having prison wives. It's no different. But on here, it never said Charles was taking it by force. Now, if he indulged, that's a whole different thing. You know, he's not in there taking it by force. That's a difference. Consensual by force. He was a victim at one time.
Quit the Bloods. Eddie became a full-blown sissy a year after the filming. Mindy is alone in.
So it seems like they did a year after the filming. You know, a year passed where they went back and, hey, what's going on with everybody? Well, Eddie became a full blown. Mark got shipped off. You know, he let go of his ties. JG got shipped off. David was struggling with his addiction.
In a drug treatment dorm. Hip's mom visits just about every Sunday.
Like going to work and drinking coffee is a normal thing on the street. Having boys and prison wives is a normal thing in here. The same things go on here as goes on out there. Where they go to work and make their money, we do our hustling and make our money. Where they you know, they might trick a car salesman into selling him something cheaper. We'll trick the poker man into giving us more chips for our money.
After going,
You heard what he said right there, right? He said the girls on the free world will go trick the used car salesman for a better deal, and we in here we trick the poker man for more chips. So what role is he playing? He's playing the boy role, right? I mean, according to what he's saying. You have to listen to what he's saying. He said everything's the same. You have wives out there. We have prison wives in here. You drink your morning coffee, just like the girls go out there try to, you know, flirt with the dudes, try to get a better deal. We in here, we try to do the same thing with the poker man. We try to get some more chips. So nowhere in this documentary did they ever say Hips was taking it by force. Now, if he indulged, possibilities high. If I was a betting man, I would say yes. Based off the documentary, based off interviews, I would say yes, he indulged. Consensual. But remember, he was forced upon. And in this documentary, it never says him being, you know, taking it by force. Not like over here. Now you come over here.
It's just whoop everybody in that motherfucker that coming at him a game. For a young white guy like myself that was real skinny and wasn't working out and wasn't real healthy and shit, and been doing drugs and shit, it's not just one or two people coming at him. It's just boom, 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 boom. Every 5 minutes, it's just boom, boom, boom. You know, it's constant.
they either want you for your money or your ass won.
Mindy and Matt were both doing hard time by the age of 19. Matt has gone from born-again Christian to Satanist, and then was invited to join the Bloods, Mark and JG's gang.
After 2 years,
And the lieutenant, they come around to do.
So before they did that to that white blood Matt, they let him join the Bloods. So it seems like after 2 years of him being on the organization, Mark ended up turning him out.
Daily inspections of the whole dorm. So they go in the closet and they see all this shit painted on the wall, and they go off. Basically, I just made him feel guilty. I started to put my plan into making. So I let him know that I want him to be with me. I let him know that I want to have sex with him. I let him know I want to lay with him.
Been drinking, been smoking some reefer or whatever. And I go to my little brother's cell, or I call him my little brother Mark.
This is my righteous dog, you know what I'm saying? He comes in.
So I asked him, I said, man, you know what you did could have got a lot of people messed up. So he like, yeah.
He doesn't make it any better. He jumps right in.
I said, what if we rape you right now? How will you like that?
He started crying and begging and pleading. You know what I'm saying? Mark, I don't want to be like this. I don't want to be gay.
You see, nowhere in that documentary does it portray that Hips took his boys by force. They made it seem like Hips was a victim, indulging in that type of stuff. He wasn't in there taking it by force, like you hear Mark saying from his own words, and then you hear it again from Jonathan Schwartz, the director, the producer, the one that was able to see all the disciplinary reports, all the offenses that took them that these characters did behind the walls. Because just like Jonathan Schwartz said, he did his investigation. And if Mark wasn't the Mark that he was being portrayed, then he wouldn't have came out and publicly announced that whatever Mark was in that documentary, he clearly is. I mean, that video has about 20,000 views. I don't see a man that's going to put his livelihood or his credibility out there to, smut somebody's name up just to smut it up without not having seen some kind of documentation in the past to clearly say that yes, he can call Mark the serial rapist. Without a definite doubt in his mind, he can do that and go on camera and say those words if there was no documentation. So this video was just a little quick video on because I've been seeing a lot of comments of why I don't question Hips, or that's like I said before. I've talked to Hips on and off the camera. I can ask him again. I can invite a few people to ask him. But at the end of the day, the only ones that were there were Mark and Hips so far. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there that are watching this that really know what's going on, but they just don't want to speak about it. So it's a little quick video. Y'all enjoy it. I'm still working on a lot of things behind the scenes. Hopefully I can get them done over the weekend and bring y'all some more content. Y'all have a good one.